It also means we have to monitor what is taught in the mosque and what is taught in the Muslim schools. I was surprised to know that even in Egypt, the government makes all the Muslim clergy present their sermon to be approved, because they are frightened they will encourage terrorists in the mosque in Egypt. Now I think we probably need the same thing. It needs to have it translated into English and to say to the guy, are you preaching hatred or are you preaching assimilation, cooperation in Australia? If you want to preach hatred, you've got to stop. In fact, we'll deport you. We'll send you back to where you come from.
Some scary thoughts there, isn't it?
It is. I think now, when I say it's a threat, and I believe God showed me that, He won't say it's a threat tomorrow. It's not a threat next week. What God was showing me, Fred, I'm talking about 20 years' time. In 20 years' time, I don't want people to say, we have a massive problem in Sydney with a very powerful Muslim force. Where did they come from? Why wasn't something done about it? Everybody says it's too late. I've talked to journalists in the UK, they've interviewed me on these policies, and you know what they all say to me, Fred? We think you're on the right track, but it's too late for the UK. They've actually, journalists have said to me, we're too late. We've got millions here, and it's out of control already. So I don't want people to say it's too late for Australia. We've got time to deal with this very serious problem. Let's deal with it now.
It seems a little bit like history repeating itself, actually. I remember reading that in the 1950s, I believe, Lebanon was a Christian nation with a majority Christian population.
Yep.
And within a matter of years, that had turned around, which then did lead to the Civil War, I guess.
Yep.
There is a fear that
Definitely
could happen from what you're saying.
There's a parallel in many, many countries. And the saddest one is Egypt. And that's why I've been there a number of times to Egypt, and I've met with the church leaders there. And they told me, they said, the Apostle St. Mark came to Egypt, evangelised Egypt. Egypt became a Christian country. In fact, it was so Christian, the Roman emperors wanted to destroy it, and they martyred 1 million Egyptian Christians were martyred. They would not deny Christ, they were put to the sword in Egypt. So they have suffered persecution and bloodshed, so they're very strong. So here you had a Christian nation. Up comes Islam in the 7th century, and there was some problems. They wanted to come to Egypt. The Christians in Egypt, following the Bible, said, love your enemies. Yes, you're welcome. Please come. Now, over a period of years, what's happened now, the Christians are the minority, only 20%, and the Muslims literally have their foot on the neck of the Christians, standing right on top of the Christians. They're being persecuted. Their villages are being attacked and burnt down. When Christians are murdered, the police have actually arrested some Christians and not the murderers, because the police are Muslims as well. No one ever gets charged with the murders. They treat the Christians as if they're subhuman. They have no value. There's also a campaign to force them out of the businesses. And one fellow who came to Australia said, I had a business. He said they would literally park a semi-trailer in front of my shop. No one could get into my shop. No one could see my shop. The idea was send the Christian broke. And so even business people who are Christians in business are persecuted and so on. And so to me that was a warning, as I said, with Lebanon. Here were the Christians, welcomed the Muslims, now the Muslims run the country. And they've told me they've put in rules where the Christians cannot build a church, cannot repair their toilets, cannot do one thing unless they have a letter from the president. It has to be personally approved by the president of Egypt. So imagine how much trouble that is. And he often doesn't do it. And so buildings just start to fall down. The Christians want to rebuild them. If they start to do any building, the police arrive and attack them saying, you've broken the law, you don't have a permit to do this. And this is the sort of harassment the Christians are going through every day in Egypt right now.
It's a sad thing.
It is. I don't want that to happen in Australia.
No.
Because I believe Australia is a Christian nation. By that I'm saying, not everybody goes to church. Not everybody's a Christian. But every country has values, has culture, has conventions. Our culture and conventions are Christian. We've inherited that. And so we have prayers in Parliament, we have scripture teaching in our state schools, the Bible is used in our courts and so on. So we have this Christian covering. And I know it's not in everyone's heart, but it is there. We're not a Muslim nation, we're not a Hindu nation, we're not a Buddhist nation, we're not a pagan nation. We are a Christian nation, and I'm committed under God to make certain Australia stays a Christian nation. I'll do all I can with every ounce in my body to make sure Australia stays a Christian nation under the sovereignty of God and under the Lordship of Jesus Christ.
So from what you're saying really, as far as people who say that we need to be tolerant of other religions, really the impression I'm getting, Fred, is that we are, and you are.
Yeah.
You're very tolerant of other religions.
Definitely.
And if nothing else, you're actually fighting against those who aren't tolerant of other religions.
That's right.
And the religions that are established in this country.
That's right. I'm against the intolerant Muslim fundamentalist who is anti-Christian and anti-Christ.
That's great.